Hey, this is Matthew.
And this is Andrea.
Welcome back to Nerd News today. We got some action figure reviews. This is going to be not just a review, it's going to be more of a critical analysis of what's up with some wrestling toys.
It's going to be what's up with toys.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So, of course, this discussion is going to probably bring a lot of trolls in here, too, and a lot of naysayers. And what I want to say to you guys out there, don't comment until you finish the video. I know it's a long video. We make a lot of points. Watch it and listen to us before you jump down our throats. More so if you're just the kind of people that want to troll us and are going to call us a bunch of SJWs or whatever you want to say. Actually listen to what we want to say, then talk to us, and we will talk back to you.
Yeah, we will absolutely comment and, have a discussion. We're open to discussion, not so much open to trolls.
What we have here is not the entire line, but a good portion of the main line of the action figures from Mattel's WWE Superstars line. So this line was supposed to be their answer to entering the girl action figure-oriented market.
The female-oriented market.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot about this and what went wrong with the line and what's gone wrong with a lot of the female action figure lines in general, from the male perspective, the female perspective, and from the toy buyer perspective.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get some good variety of stuff here.
Yeah. So first things first, let's go ahead and show you guys what we have. So we have a few of the figures. Andrew, why don't you walk us through who we've got?
Okay, so starting here, we have the one, the only, Natalia. We have the goddess, Alexa Bliss.
Corey Graves right now is spinning in his graves.
Oh, that was terrible. We have one of my personal favorites. Can you feel the glow? Naomi.
I can feel the glow.
We have the legacy, the queen, Charlotte Flair. And finally, we have the man herself, Becky Lynch.
Becky, two belts.
Becky, two belts.
So we're looking at the basic action figures for these characters. There wasn't really much other than basics for them. There was basically another pack that had like some accessories, role-playing accessories. Yeah. And then they had one play set, which was like a backstage area.
Yes, which actually was pretty cool.
And that was the only way, I believe, to get Nikki with the championship belt.
Yes, I believe so. Oh yeah. So before we forget, there were also Nikki and Brie Bella. And we clearly don't have them.
Yes, we don't have those two. And also rounding out the line was eventually Asuka. She came out as well. And I think that was it for the entire line.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing anyone else. And the Asuka was extremely hard to find. I saw it one time in a Target, I think.
Yeah.
And that was it.
So this is the basic packaging that you see here. Very pink, very bright.
Yes.
And on the back we have photo of the superstar in question. So oddly enough, they don't show you every single person in the line of these figures. It only just shows you 3, or in the case of Charlotte, only 2 of the characters that are available in the series.
I think the Bellas and Charlotte were the first 3 that were part of the launch, and then I think Natty and Alexa came out next, and then Naomi and Asuka were the latter part.
Which is kind of silly in some ways, how they rolled out with that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that as we get there, because there's a lot of silly
and I forgot where Becky fell in, but Becky I think was with Natty and Alexa.
So yeah, they're very simple packages. In terms of like collectability for them, they're not that interesting. Unfortunately, they're very bland packages.
There's nothing really exciting. It doesn't scream collect me, collect me, collect me.
So let's just go ahead and start popping them open.
Okay.
And let's just start talking about them from there. So these came out at a time when basically a lot of major toy companies were trying to tap into that girl market, the female action figure buying market. And that includes not just Mattel, but Hasbro got into that in several ways. With their Star Wars Forces of Destiny dolls, and only dolls actually for that.
Yeah, the action figure lines were a little bit different.
Hasbro also had their Marvel Rising.
Yeah, but again, those were dolls. But they had, I think they had some figures too. But really, if you're gonna look at action figures, I Am Elemental was really the biggie.
It's the biggie that no one's heard about.
Exactly, which is so frustrating.
So we've talked about I Am Elemental a lot on this channel before, because they were a startup that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm Elemental, as you said, little startup that came out of nowhere. They really were the ones who started the movement, though, of getting female action figures with reasonable body shapes. Because they were very big on making sure that was realistic and not not the crazy comic book proportions that we've all grown up with. It looked for a while that they were trying, different companies, big and little, were trying to get females who liked action figures.
So yeah, I Am Elemental, basically, they did 2 types of figures. They had a 6-inch figure, which was more articulated, then they had the 3-inch scale figures, essentially. And they did 2 waves of the 3-inchers. We're still waiting on a second 6-inch figure.
Yes.
We'll see if it gets made. Hopefully it does.
Well, they're going through a lot of stuff right now. I mean, after all, they're a startup, so they're just kind of working on a whole bunch of different projects. But the fact is, even if they didn't come out with anything else, I know they are, so don't worry. But even if they didn't come out with anything else, what they created has had a lasting effect on the industry.
Yeah, like they basically proved, oh, we can make a line for girls and they're going to buy it. Mm-hmm. Difference was, however, that Mattel's a smaller company, so the expectations are a little bit different. They could function at their level as opposed to a company like, let's say, Mattel, who has blown up expectations that are not realistic, and they gave up right away.
Pretty much, yeah.
But let's talk about these figures first, shall we?
Yes.
So we got Becky Lynch in the stand out of the box first. Let's take a look at her. And so, yeah, I mean, it's pretty decent.
I mean, overall, it's cool. Biggest complaint I would have, and again, it just goes down to what they thought girls wanted, was that, it doesn't really look like her. It's a very girlied up version, I guess.
Very Barbie-fied version.
Yeah, Barbie-fied is a good word for it. It's a very Barbie-fied version. See, even Becky doesn't like it. And we all know what the man likes. So, yeah, I mean, it's fine. I have no problem with it. It's cute. If I was a kid playing with it, I'd be really happy with it. But, I mean, is it Becky Lynch? Nah, it's very representation. It's
She does have really nice hair, though.
Oh, yeah, I love the hair. It's very Barbied. Speaking of Barbie, take a look at Charlotte here.
So Charlotte's definitely the most Barbie-fied out of the bunch. I mean, comparing this now to Becky, you can see, like, Charlotte is probably the least looking like her actual persona.
Yeah.
This is just straight up Barbie doll, and that's, I think, what they're probably banking on.
Mm-hmm. Here's Natty, and she's an interesting one, because sometimes I look at her and I see Natalia, but then other times I'll look at her and be like, what is this?
She's basically the Canadian version of Barbie.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it. It's Canadian Barbie.
Yeah, I mean, from the hair, which is nothing.
No, this hair is really, especially from behind.
Yeah, I want to point out that, we're not going to get too crazy about, the little bits and pieces about the figures, but of all the figures, this is the least accurate to the actual performer.
Yeah, like I'm trying to find it from any perspective where it looks like her. It's like the eyes are cartooned versions of the eyes.
Yeah,
That's
every now and then, the smile kind of makes me think of her.
Yeah.
But the hair isn't there. In general, it's not there. There's nothing that screams Natty. And to be honest, she hasn't worn this outfit in quite some time.
No.
So I don't know. I get that they didn't want to do the dominatrix kitty thing, but they could have found a more tamed down version.
I mean, to be fair, Charlotte has never worn long pants.
True, but that still feels more Charlotte.
The colors are right, but she's never. I mean, these outfits are absolutely not authentic in any way whatsoever.
Oh, I know, but what I mean is that they could have done her in black.
Yeah, they should have done.
They should have done something in black. They should have made something cat-like. I don't know. They could have done something that was not this. I feel like this is a weird thing. So moving on, you have Naomi. I like the Naomi. Again, it's Barbie-fied version of her, but it feels like her if I can get her to stand.
See, I'm trying to get her to stand up. Like you can see here, her legs are shaped like a dinosaur.
Yeah, this is just.
She's got like, I don't even know how to describe those kinds of legs are.
They're overly skinny.
And she's very top heavy because she has this really awesome hair, actually.
She has, yeah, right.
But everything else is not very well balanced.
I know, and which is funny because I expect that with female figures, but that's usually because they're making the bust enormous. In this case, it's the hair. I'd settle for that though. I gotta say that's actually a step up in my opinion. I'd rather it be the hair that causes the problems than the rest of the body.
And lastly, the figure that looks the best, actually.
Yeah, this is the one that looks the most like her, like her counterpart, Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, this one has the likeness that's like easily the best of what we've seen.
I really like it a lot. I like this one a lot. It feels like Alexa.
It's the most toyetic of the bunch.
Yes, it is. I think that's a good way to put it.
So now we've seen them all, let's compare Articulation. And since Alexa's up there, I have, this is granted a much older figure, but it's the one I just happened to grab. So this is a Charlotte Flair figure, basic Charlotte Flair, before they made the most recent changes to the figures. So let's compare the Articulation, shall we? So yeah, you can take Alexa.
I'll take Alexa.
So let's go point by point. Let's start with the head. Head goes left to right.
Okay, so does Alexa.
Shoulder, she has a shoulder joint.
Yep, shoulder joint.
Bicep swivel. No bicep swivel.
No bicep swivel.
Elbow joint is there.
Elbows, yep.
Wrist movement. We have wrist movement. Yeah, the wrists do move. Torso swivel.
Torso, yes.
Chest joint, we both have. As it looks like we also both have the waist.
Yep.
Legs, she can do, yours is actually much more flexible than mine.
Late ass split. I don't know if Alexa can do that in real life, but
No, Biggie could, but not her.
Biggie.
Actually, no, I'm sure she could. She's a cheerleader.
Yeah, true. She had to.
So we have knee joints. And it looks like we both have the knees. Both have the boot movement. And lastly, what do we have for the feet?
I do not have feet.
No feet movement.
No feet.
So, all right. Well, oddly enough, let's see. I think I saw actually on Becky. It looks like she has a joint. So oddly enough, she has. Well, actually, no, she doesn't. All right. So they actually swapped it. So instead of having the boot move by like the calf. They made the boot move by the foot.
Yeah, because
And it's not ball jointed, just swivels.
I think it's the same with Naomi, and
Yeah,
Natty and Charlotte and Alexa have it higher up.
So that's an odd choice. I don't really know why they made that change, but it's a change. But overall, Articulation then is basically, with the exception of that bicep swivel, it's pretty much the exact same figure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the other major differences, though, between these guys, which is the look.
Oh, yeah, the look.
And so, granted, this is not up-to-date female action figure.
But still, it's closer to what's going on these days.
Yeah, and also we should just mention, too, like in terms of scale, they are the same scale. That's important to note for our next real talking point.
Yeah.
Why these? So, there's been a lot of discussion as to, like, why would Mattel go out and make these? Like, why don't, kids just buy the normal figures of the female wrestlers and play with those?
See, I feel like that's a tricky thing because there's still so much stigma. It's a lot better. I know it's a lot better. But there's still a lot of stigma about females who love wrestling, about young girls who love wrestling.
Like, it's better in theory.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, times have changed, and now girls can buy whatever they want. Well, maybe maybe the kids can, but the parents aren't.
The parents aren't, and to be honest, the kids can't easily do it yet either. We're getting there, slowly but surely. We're definitely getting there, but no, there's still a lot of there's still blowback. Like, oh, we don't want girls in this male-dominated space with some. I don't know. It's not there yet, and I think parents definitely aren't there yet, and I think we need another generation or two before it's really solidified that girls can buy whatever the heck they want. Yeah, we're just not there yet.
And I feel like Mattel was thinking or hoping that these maybe would be the entrance point for that market, but I don't think it was really thought out very well.
I think I agree with you. I definitely, to be honest, as a young girl, I would have liked this. I would have been fine with it if they looked a little bit more like the actual superstar, because quite frankly, this Natty really annoys me. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I love Natty. And I think this is an older, supposed to be off of an older outfit.
Despite this being for 2017 and Natty not wearing anything like this for years.
Exactly. So I don't know where they pulled their reference stuff from, and that's very frustrating to know. But I mean, again, like this Alexa Bliss, look, she's awesome. I mean, I think this is fine in theory, but the marketing on this was not good. So, and that's part of what causes the problem. It's like they didn't know how to market this.
Yeah, like there was really, we talked about Hasbro and their Marvel Rising series, which has like Squirrel Girl and Ms. Marvel as the centerpieces around it. That at least has a cartoon show, but you don't really see toy commercials anymore in general. You don't really get action figure toy commercials. And really there was mild advertising, I think, on WWE programming, but like mild.
I saw a little bit every now and then. I would see something on like Cartoon Network or something like that, but in general, not much.
I know, like with DC Superhero Girls, which they just relaunched, that's a shame too. They had to relaunch something already. Had tons of merchandise and had a little cartoon show, but the cartoon show was barely even seen anywhere. I feel like
it was
barely hidden.
It was barely advertised. It was hard to find. I saw a few on demand.
Yeah, and they were like 2-minute long shorts. There was a movie and 2-minute shorts.
I think there were some comics as well.
Yeah.
And it was just so poorly marketed. And
then they rebooted all with Lauren Faust at the helm, and nothing's really changed. They have a cartoon show at least, so maybe that'll help. But
yeah, but it's just been crazy that it hasn't been. It's really frustrating that you have these products that are actually good in theory, and they're not marketing it right. They're marketing it poorly, or not enough, or not at all, and it's killing the line, and it's killing the concept that no, females buy action figures. They will buy action figures. They will buy dolls based off of action figures. They want stuff to play with. They might want slightly different things. To be honest, I think there are plenty of guys out there who would love to play with rooted haired figures. I'm sorry, I can't help it, because could you imagine?
Well, let's just remember, back, especially when Jax was around, they would do flocked characters every now and then.
Exactly.
They'd add hair. Mattel doesn't really do that as much with their figures, but they put on fabric. They're putting on fabric clothes, rubber clothes. They're putting on basically clothing accessories.
So I think that guys would would enjoy figures that were maybe a little bit more in the Barbie vein, more than people realize. But again, it comes down to marketing.
It comes down to marketing and a lot of stigma still.
Oh yeah, the marketing helps with the stigma.
I'm in a lot of wrestling toy groups on Facebook, and I've seen people actually ask about these, like, what do you think about these toys? And a lot of them will just say, some of them will say, I'd get them for my daughter, or I've got them for my daughter. Others don't want to get them because they still look like Barbies.
Yeah.
And then there's the other people who say, I got them for my daughter. She didn't like them because they don't look like this. And that is, to me, the big problem.
That's another issue as well.
because they are. I mean, they're the same scale, same almost articulation, but they're visually very, very, very different figures, and that is a put off too. Because if you got a little brother who's got these, and you're the sister who has these, they're kind of different, and that's...
Again, I think it kind of goes back and forth. It depends on who you're marketing to. I agree with you. That is definitely a big point. I know for me, that would have definitely been a huge issue for me. But at the same time, I also would have liked these as well. I would have liked both, to be honest. So, yeah, see, I would have spent money on both of them. You would have gotten double my money. Again, I think it comes down to how it's marketed. Because there's a lot of stigma on both sides. We already know about the common male stigma. You know, about how it's not for females also. But then on the female side, it's like they're getting it. It was like, oh, it's not a normal thing. It's not cool. It's not this. It's too rough. It's too male. You know? So this is actually a really good way to show, no, there's definitely femininity within it. That's really kind of cool.
Doing a backdrop suplex. Boom.
Yeah.
I still play with them the exact same way.
Yeah. Again, for me, I agree with your point about it. Because, you know, if my brother had you know, the basics or the elites, and I was just getting stuck with this, yeah, no, I'd be furious. But at the same time, I would still also want to play with these too. I want both. And I think the marketing is really kind of where the ball was dropped, because you can market this to sort of a younger crowd and say this is the gateway, you know, this is for, you know, the kids who are not quite 10 yet, you know, give it to the 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And that's when I started watching. You know, but then graduate to the basics and the elites as you get older. And they weren't doing that either.
No. I think the greatest crime, this is not related to these characters, because again, these toys didn't have great marketing. They end up being shelf warmers, in fact, at Toys R Us when they were closing.
It's so frustrating.
But let's talk, you know, real quick, Star Wars Forces of Destiny, because I don't know what I'm going to talk about those. That is the biggest waste of a line. And it's like, and to me, that's a big culprit in the whole argument for, why are we making toys for girls like this? Because Forces of Destiny basically lasted like $3 or $4. And then in such a short amount of time, we found them at $5 below.
Yeah, that was...
$5 below. A doll that, during the time when it was closing at Toys R Us, we'd still see, we almost bought, in fact. Like the Princess Leia with the R2-D2.
I loved that.
And they looked really good.
The only reason I didn't buy it was because I just don't have the space for it. That was literally the only real reason I didn't buy it.
And the line is now dead, because it's at $5 below. They gave up on it incredibly quickly. What marketing they had, I don't really know if there was much of one. I don't think there was really a great marketing plan.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, they gave up after essentially one wave. Or you might say, like, you know, this is more than one wave, this is multiple waves, but they're all like 2 figures, 3 figures. Like, no, that's one wave that they split.
Yeah. It's just, it makes no sense. It feels like pandering. That's all it is. They were pandering to the females who were saying, hey, we want this, we want this, we want this. Instead of looking at it and being like, hey, they want to give us our money, so how about we give them a product that they'll want to spend money on? And let's give it a proper marketing campaign. Let's give it a proper social media campaign. Let's give it a proper recognition and make it fun and exciting and make kids want to buy it. Let's make boys jealous that they can't buy it so that they then buy it. You know, instead of the reverse, which has been the norm, you know?
Seems to be what it is, yeah. Most people just want to play with the normal figures.
Yeah, so rather than... that's the thing, like, they dropped the ball in so many ways, not just with the wrestling, with Forces of Destiny, with Marvel Rising. Because, again, I saw a little bit, like, a commercial or two here and there for Marvel Rising, but in general, I didn't see much. Unless it was on the Disney Channel that they were really pushing it, which, again, would be stupid because... if you're on other networks, like if you have access to advertising on other networks, advertise the heck out of that. I didn't see campaigns online. I didn't see much of anything for a lot of these, and it's just so frustrating. Basically, they're just saying F you to a bunch of people who are willing to spend money. All because of gender nonsense.
And speaking of that gender nonsense, shall we discuss, as we kind of mentioned with Force of Destiny, the fact that these figures had a tie-in with actual Barbie-sized dolls, which we looked at in the past. We didn't bring them today, but we looked at those also.
Yep.
And so, again, it's like their way of saying you can play with Barbies, but also have these wrestling dolls that can wrestle, but they really can't actually wrestle if you saw our review. So it's a very confused, well, not confused marketplace, because the marketplace has an idea of what they want, but nothing's been made for it yet. And
it was an FU to everyone. It really was. It was pandering.
It's like, let's make fashion dolls. Let's not focus on the part of why these kids are usually watching this, and that's for the athleticism and the wrestling and the. Of course, you can't deny people. You know, especially little girls who like to watch it, and some boys like they want to be the people that they're seeing.
Oh yeah.
And with the dolls, like you can comb their hair. Wow, it's great, but they don't comb their hair on WWE TV.
Okay, look, I will say this: I would have loved wrestling fashion dolls, because yes, I would have loved being able to have them properly wrestle. but then be like, oh no, we're totally gonna go to the beach now. You know, get
That's
them in
true.
like a car and just like, let's put on some cool clothes and, you know, I'll do your hair all differently. And then while you're at whatever new non-wrestling location, we're gonna wrestle again.
Yes, that's where the female perspective comes into play. Because for me, it's not what I want, but for
Yeah.
you, that's what you want.
Oh yeah, that's totally something that I want. I mean, there are gonna be people who want what you want. There are gonna be people who want what I want. There are people who are just gonna be like, hey, they're really pretty, but I don't want to be. I like them because they're kind of cool, but I'd rather just do fashion doll stuff.
And I think that's the
okay.
confusion with making these things.
Well, yeah, but and again, that goes down to having a strong marketing campaign where they focus each of those, where they find a way to market each of those concepts to different people. Because, dude, it would have been awesome to show, you know, some of the, I guess, the elite fashion dolls, you know, who had their changeable outfits. Show them being all like, oh, this is, you know, like, we're having fun, we're doing this, whatever. Show that. But then show another commercial of them, you know, kicking butt.
So if I could paraphrase, then like basically you wouldn't change these figures, you would change how they were marketed more so. Like you'd say like, yes, the people who want to comb their hair can comb their hair, the people who want to wrestle them can wrestle them, and you're just presenting both of those things to the viewers through marketing.
I think
what you're
that's
saying?
in part what I'm saying. Because I do think these are good dolls in theory. Because there is a need for a younger type of thing. Because I also think that, I think a lot of kids in general, all genders, they start watching wrestling with whatever parent, usually the father, but you know, it can be the mother. They usually start when they're little. There aren't enough proper toys. I feel like like the toys that you grew up with, that I grew up with, in some ways, because of the style of them, they were good for all ages, mostly. But now, like, with your basics and your elites, those are a little more mature.
Yeah.
They're still pretty awesome, but they're a little more mature, and I don't know if I'd necessarily want my 5-year-old playing with them.
Toys have changed to reflect more the adult collector than they have children playing with them.
Exactly. So I would love there to be a line of toys for the younger kids. I think that's a great way to get them in and then to graduate them to the higher stuff. So part marketing, I just think kids are more, this cartoony style, you know, this Barbified, this whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it fits better for a little kid because little kids don't think about that kind of quality. You know, it's just not kind of how they are.
Usually those are the views that are reflected through their parents onto them, and that's how they get them. So
yeah,
it's funny you mentioned, just not to cut you off real quick,
no,
but you mentioned a lot of times it's the adult male parents who usually actually introduce them. I've known a lot of the pro wrestlers who compete today, and they'd say they watch it with their grandmothers.
Which is awesome.
You know, especially Southern wrestling too. It was, you know, you'd get your grandmas in the front row. They were really digging it.
And that's another crazy thing. It's just there are so many women who are into it, but it's not presented it's still presented very much as a male-dominated sport when the interest is really just everywhere.
That's the interesting part about it is I feel like especially if you look at like 70s, 80s wrestling, you'd see a lot more women in the crowd because they were there, in a lot of ways really to ogle the men, quite honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But they'd also go into the storylines. They'd fall for the storylines. Then the Attitude Era came along and we began to really cater for the male audience. Very hard.
Yes.
And now that's started to change. Well, not really now, but over the past 10 years especially, the audience has broadened. Women have become a little bit more accepted into it. And now that women's athleticism and the women wrestlers are taken more seriously, that's changing too. So I also, wonder if right figure, wrong time.
Possibly. See, that's just it. I don't know. There's
no easy answer really with this.
Of course there's no easy answer, but that's part of why I think it's so important, why I think the marketing was so important in all of this. If the marketing had been there, if they knew how to properly market this, if they knew how to set up the proper campaigns and whatever, I think it could have been the right time. Because there are a lot of young girls. You see more young girls out there now who want to play with them, who want to get in. I mean, doesn't Bailey have that little girl who just goes to all of her shows pretty much, who's a hugger, and she's just all decked out in Bailey wear? So I think it's there. But they don't know that. The kids don't know it's there. Even the parents don't know it's there because it's just not... It's basically like they took it and they said, here, we're coming out for if you happen to be in a toy store, you'll see them. And with the loss of Toys R Us in particular, it's just like...
And that was the interesting thing about these toys, too, is that these were in essentially what is the boy section, the action figure area.
That's too, yeah.
So it's like, and that's the hard thing, too, with how do you market these in the toy store? Where do they go? Do you put them with the dolls? Do you put the dolls with the dolls? Or do you put the figures with the figures? Do you all put them together? These in particular, were very tough. Force of Destiny, those you saw in the Barbie section. Marvel Rising, you see that in the doll section.
Yeah.
But these were really the most action figure ones of the bunch. I guess the problem is now, how do you get the girls into the action figure aisle, which is normally dominated by boys and boys' products?
And that's pretty much the nail. You hit the problem, the nail on the head. The real issue here is, do a lot of these toys need to be gendered? I mean, I understand that there's some stuff that, is going to be obviously more male or female centric. I get that, but at the same time, does it really need to be?
And I do want to add too that I'm saying boys aisle, but now that is something that has changed. Is that now it's no longer called the boys section, the girls section. It's action figures and dolls. But speaking still from a perspective of buyers and the average layman, it's still, that's where the boys go. That's where the girls go.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest issues. And I don't really know if we need that anymore. And that's kind of something that I think a lot of companies are struggling with, especially the bigger ones, where it's just, they need to accept that kids, adults, collectors, whatever, but kids, the people who beg their parents to buy toys, they don't care as much about gendered stuff as the companies seem to think. They only do that because that's what they're told how they need to care. They're only told, oh, you're a boy, you have to like this. You're a girl, you have to like this. And that's not what they actually care about. They see something like, oh, that's cool, I want to play with it. It's only when a parent, a grandparent, a relative, a friend, whatever, somebody slaps it out of their hands and is like, no, you can't do that because that's for for a female or for a male. That's when you start running into these problems. And the fact is, something like this, you know what I think I would have done? I would have split it. I don't know how much, what kind of shipment they would get. I would put some in the action figure section. I would put some in the female doll section because it's such a hard thing to figure out. But it would be a really great way. You have something like this and like, hey, I see Charlotte, I see Becky, and I see Natty, but I'm looking for an Alexa Bliss. Let me go over to the action figure section. Maybe they're over there. Now, don't get me wrong. People will complain about that too. But at least it would be a start, because they're just figures. It shouldn't be that, oh, only a girl can play with it. Only a boy can play with it. And it's frustrating. And on top of that, it's just, they gave up. Like, we both know this is pretty much a deadline. It's
totally that we asked a toy for this year, didn't see anything, and there was nothing else, it's done. And they gave up so quick. That's like saying, like how do they gauge my question to know when it's time to give up? Because they only did one line. Mm-hmm. They did a year. 1 year. And granted, in toy time, it's not the worst, because we've seen, a toy line have a gimmick that'll last about a year. That's because it's a gimmick. Yeah. And so, in my mind, does that mean that these were just purely gimmick figures, like you said, like just pandering? Was that purely their purpose, to be a gimmick for 1 year to pander, and then say goodbye, we tried?
And that's so not okay. Girls aren't like that. They just want product.
This is just capitalism, really, in full power.
This really is. It's pure pandering. It's pure nonsense.
Pandering to greed is what we have here.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it feels like. They gave the impression that this was supposed to be an ongoing line. They gave the impression that they were going to come out with more. And granted, there are only so many figures that they could come out with because there are only so many females within the company. But they're slowly expanding that.
And they had expanded because they showed us at San Diego Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. Never got produced. But for obvious reasons, in this case, John Cena, Nikki Bella.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
That didn't get made. But they also showed Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man.
I wanted that
didn't
so
get
badly.
made.
I know. I wanted that so badly.
And the point is, they're making men in that same scale now.
Yeah, and it was great. In fact, I spoke to some younger people about and who love wrestling, and they were excited about it. They were excited. Okay, granted, they were really excited about the John and Nikki, and then they were hoping that Brie and Bryan would be made. And no, we got nothing.
There's a lot of possibilities with that line, but it's dead. So ultimately, I think that, it's a tough thing to try and resolve, and we're not going to resolve it today, obviously. But our opinion of it is, it is a tough. We really haven't come to much of a conclusion either, because it's an ongoing thing, and that's, I think, the point is that this should be an ongoing thing. It should not just be a one-time, one and done. It should be an experiment.
They should be trying so many different things just to see what hits.
And that's why we come back to I Am Elemental, because they've kept things very low and slow, and they haven't actually produced anything new, but the line has still grown in popularity at their own level, at their own expectations.
And they're trying new things as well. Like, they're expanding in different ways.
They've changed how the brand is, what the products are. Mm-hmm. With this, it was pretty much they had their one line figured out.
Yeah.
And then they added like Asuka in the end. They had a few other dolls that never got produced. I don't think they ever made the Carmella or a few others. Maybe they did.
I think they made the Carmella.
Maybe they did, but point is, like, they gave up.
They really did.
If you're going to say this is a whole new line, you can't give up that easily. And that's like saying, for example, we made WWE Defining Moments. Didn't sell that well. so we're going to cancel it. Well, ultimately, that's what happened, but it happened after 7 years.
So
Because Defining Moments is a great example, because Defining Moments, we ended up finding that John Cena at Five Below. Mm-hmm. And they had tons of that. For a long time, certain Defining Moments figures were peg warmers, like the Jericho especially.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
There was a bunch that, and this is a 7-year-long line, and that was left to keep going, whereas these 1 year out.
Also, a real fun fact about the John Cena. I was in Virginia at a Toys R Us. John Cena Defining Moments as far as the eye could see.
Yeah, exactly.
I took some pictures of that one because that was hilarious.
And there was a lot of Defining Moments that actually didn't sell that well.
Yeah.
And that's partially why the line died, because they were expensive, I think, also. Yeah. But point being, that went 7 years, when it was an up and down kind of line. And this was 1 year. Things weren't so great, but they didn't try and pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking now, just like, oh my God, how amazing would the Iconics be in this style?
Now there's a lot more options, because,
exactly.
Again, that's why I also kind of wonder, was it the right figure, wrong time? Because now we've got a much broader, and it's in the course of a few years.
That's why I wonder about that. I mean, I know there have been a lot of changes, but I still think that there would have been a market for it if people had known about it.
So I'm going to talk now to the adult collectors, and specifically the dads out there. If your daughter wants to play with wrestling toys, buy it.
Yes.
She wants to be with you, she wants to hang out with you, she wants to watch wrestling with you, play with her.
Yes.
And if you have a son who wants to look at Barbies, get it.
Yes.
And play with him.
Yes.
Toys teach lessons.
Yeah.
Learn, play, grow.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Also, for anyone who doesn't think girls are going to be as violent and, as like into it, trust me, you're wrong.
She speaks from experience.
Oh, yes, I do.
So I think that's about all we're going to say today in this very long video. There's a lot of points to talk about, and hopefully you've sat through the entire thing to watch it with us, and we want to hear what you have to say as well, because it's a tough topic. We want to know what you have to say.
We would love to know your thoughts on it. Please comment below. Keep it nice. Keep it decent, Don't just start talking. You guys know. But really, we want to hear from you. Please let us know your thoughts.
So that was our look at the WWE Superstars figures, a bunch of them, and our overview of basically action figures for girls.
Yeah. So, we want action figures. We want action figures.
I think that's ultimately the resolution here is, we need more action figures. And whether it's a line specifically made for girls or just finding ways to get the girls to buy the toys that are meant for everyone. For everyone, yeah. That's, I think, the resolution we can come to. And basically, don't say no to your kids if they want to buy a toy that you think is not for their gender.
Yeah, don't gender toys. That's the biggest takeaway.
Toys are anything they want to be. That's why you could have G.I. Joe having a wrestling match with John Cena. John Cena would still. But then again, G.I. Joe have radar, so they would be able to see him. Boom.
What?
On that note...
What? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Ah!
So I'm Matthew.
I'm Andrea.
That's our look at some wrestling figures, and we'll talk toys another day. See you guys next time.